In the sprawling interstellar halls of the Varenthian Council, ambassadors from dozens of star systems gathered, their elongated limbs and iridescent skin shimmering under the artificial light as they debated proposed trade accord with Earth, confident in the human delegation's supposed naivety and limited technological understanding, unaware that every move, every polite nod, and carefully measured phrase was being logged, analyzed, and anticipated by minds far sharper and more patient than they imagined. And on Earth, within the gleaming command citadel orbiting Mars, Ambassador Elena Ramirez reviewed the latest intelligence reports with a calm precision that belied the tension in the room, knowing that the Varenthians, like many before them, were about to discover the folly of underestimating humans, while in the shadows of the council chamber. Human intelligence operatives had already infiltrated communications networks, subtly redirecting negotiations, planting suggestions, and steering the alien delegates into overconfidence, exploiting centuries of assumptions that humans were weak, disorganized, and predictable. And as the debate progressed, the Varenthian leader, Lord Corvax, made the fatal error of dismissing the minor objections raised by Ramirez, interpreting them as mere bureaucratic obstinance rather than the calculated probes they were. And when he proposed a clause that would allow Varenthian fleets free reign over newly discovered human trade routes, the council erupted in applause, but Ramirez, smiling ever so slightly, knew that every term had been recorded, cross-referenced with hidden treaties, and was about to trigger a chain reaction designed not merely to protect humanity's interests, but to showcase human ingenuity in ways the galaxy would never forget. Simultaneously, deep within the research labs on Titan, Dr. Kofi Mensah and his team had perfected an energy modulation system capable of neutralizing Varenthian cloaking technology, ensuring that any fleet movement within key sectors could be tracked in real time. And this knowledge, combined with strategic deployment of automated defense drones disguised as commercial vessels, would give humans the upper hand in any confrontation without firing a single missile prematurely. And as the council session adjourned, Ramirez requested a private meeting with key allies, including the humanoid representatives from the Seraphis and Vekari systems, subtly sowing doubt about Varenthian intentions, hinting at historical betrayals and potential economic sabotage, all while transmitting encrypted messages to Earth Command, orchestrating a scenario in which the alien leaders' overconfidence would become their undoing. And as the Varenthian envoys departed, utterly convinced of their diplomatic victory, Elena's eyes scanned the holo display of human assets across the solar system, knowing that every ship, every sensor, and every cyber defense protocol had been synchronized for a coordinated response, and that when the time came, the galaxy would witness not just retaliation but the brilliance of human strategy, a calculated ballet of misdirection, technological mastery, and psychological insight, demonstrating that what the Varenthians had interpreted as polite diplomacy was, in reality, a meticulously executed plan to protect humanity's sovereignty, punish betrayal, and ensure that no power would ever mistake human ingenuity for weakness. Again, and as night fell over Earth, quiet but unbroken, humanity prepared not for war but for a revelation, a demonstration that the true cost of diplomatic betrayal would not be counted in ships lost or planets conquered, but in the irreversible understanding that humans, when pushed, do not merely respond. They outthink, outmaneuver, and decisively reshape the very rules of engagement in the galaxy. The morning after the council meeting, human command centers across the solar system buzzed with coordinated activity as fleets repositioned under the guise of routine exercises, sensors on Mercury and orbital satellites flickering to life, picking up subtle shifts in Varenthian scouting patterns that indicated confusion and hesitation. And on Luna, General Hiroshi Tanaka oversaw the deployment of stealth frigates embedded with adaptive cloaking arrays and quantum encryption nodes, while, simultaneously, Ambassador Ramirez convened a secure communication channel with Vekari and Seraphis liaison teams to fine-tune a network of economic pressures and intelligence leaks designed to fracture the Varenthian coalition from within, exploiting pre-existing rivalries between their member worlds. And as the Varenthians celebrated what they assumed to be an unchallenged victory in trade negotiations, they failed to notice the subtle disruption of their internal data streams, small anomalies in sensor readings, and the redirection of key diplomatic signals that suggested Earth's influence was already extending far beyond what any of them had anticipated. And deep within the asteroid belt, Dr. Mensah's team completed the final calibration of the energy modulation system, testing it on simulated cloaked ships and observing with satisfaction as their movements became perfectly visible. an invisible hand now able to see and anticipate every maneuver the Varenthian fleets might attempt, and this capability was quietly fed into the command centers of human cruisers, providing tactical advantages that rendered the alien superior numbers largely irrelevant, while simultaneously, cultural and psychological operations teams broadcast carefully crafted messages to Varenthian populations, subtly undermining confidence in their leaders by revealing stories of betrayal and incompetence that mirrored historical precedents in human history. And aboard Earth's flagship, the Dauntless, Captain Sofia Alvarez reviewed maps of Varenthian strongholds with meticulous attention, knowing that every seemingly innocuous trade station, supply depot, and communication hub could be leveraged as both a distraction and a strategic asset in the coming weeks. And as human diplomats continued formal discussions with alien envoys, they fed additional false intelligence, including exaggerated troop positions and falsified resource allocations, luring Varenthian commanders into making tactical errors without ever committing a single strike. And throughout this orchestrated dance, civilians on Mars, Venus, and the orbital colonies carried on with daily life seemingly untouched by interstellar intrigue, their resilience and adaptability serving as a quiet yet profound testament to human determination. And as the sun rose over Earth, casting long shadows across cities and colonies alike, Ambassador Ramirez reflected on the dual nature of their plan, a masterclass in patience, misdirection, and genius that would reveal the true cost of betrayal not through brute force alone, but by exposing the vulnerabilities, hubris, and miscalculations of an empire that had presumed humanity would react with fear or submission. And in doing so, Earth would demonstrate that diplomacy is not just words exchanged across a table, but a battlefield where intellect, foresight, and calculated restraint can become more devastating than any weapon in the galaxy. Weeks passed as the Varenthian Council remained oblivious to the intricate web of human strategy quietly tightening around them, their fleets repositioning under false assumptions, their diplomats misled by carefully crafted deceptions, while Earth's command centers monitored every movement with near-omniscient precision. And on the orbiting station above Ganymede, Admiral Priya Desai coordinated simultaneous cyber and electronic operations that disrupted Varenthian communications, rerouted supply convoys into carefully chosen dead zones, and subtly manipulated sensor data to create phantom threats and non-existent vulnerabilities, all which fuel paranoia within the Varenthian hierarchy, prompting hasty directives and contradictory orders that further fracture their chain of command. And meanwhile, Ambassador Ramirez used formal meetings and informal whispers to deepen the rift, sowing seeds of distrust between Varenthian factions, carefully highlighting historical precedents where overconfidence had led to ruin, while human cultural emissaries subtly promoted stories of Earth's resilience and ingenuity, framing humans as both honorable and ruthless when necessary, ensuring that Varenthian leaders would underestimate the cost of their own hubris. And as the human fleets executed covert maneuvers, deploying energy modulation pulses to illuminate cloaked vessels and reveal hidden armadas, the aliens began to realize that their intelligence apparatus had been compromise, yet they still could not identify the source, assuming instead that rival factions within their own council were leaking information. And on Titan, Dr. Mensah and his engineers continued to refine autonomous drones capable of adaptive combat, integrating predictive algorithms that anticipated Varenthian tactics before they were even implemented, ensuring that when the time came for open confrontation, every engagement would favor human strategy, while simultaneously Earth's. Economists and diplomats manipulated trade flows, creating artificial scarcities and sudden surpluses that destabilized Varenthian resource planning, forcing them into concessions and tactical missteps that only deepened their vulnerability. And as the first signs of confusion and dissent rippled through the alien fleets, Ramirez convened a private session with human allies in the Seraphis and Vekri systems, outlining the next phase of the operation, a demonstration not of raw destructive force, but a strategic genius, technological mastery, and psychological dominance, designed to punish the Council for their betrayal and ensure that any future dealings with humanity will be approached with respect, caution, and humility. And as night fell across Earth's colonies, lights gleaming against the void, humans continued their routine, unaware to most that they were part of a vast, coordinated campaign that would soon teach the galaxy a lesson in diplomacy, intelligence, and the true cost of underestimating a species that had learned to survive, adapt, and outthink every opponent it had ever faced, a species whose genius could turn betrayal into opportunity, and whose patience ensured that when the moment arrived, the Varenthian Empire would discover the devastating consequences of assuming humanity could be manipulated, intimidated, or coerced without paying the ultimate price for their miscalculation. By the time the Varenthian Council began to suspect that something was amiss, the humans had already set the stage for a display of controlled, devastating precision, with entire fleets repositioned under layers of deception, automated reconnaissance drones transmitting falsified coordinates to lure Varenthian vessels into observation zones while simultaneously mapping hidden vulnerabilities. And on Mars, General Tanaka oversaw the calibration of orbital defense platforms capable of simultaneous long-range strikes and electronic countermeasures, while Ambassador Ramirez leveraged informal communications with disaffected Varenthian delegates to seed distrust, implying that Earth's allies were secretly conspiring against the Council, and as rumors spread, minor disputes erupted among alien factions, their debates growing increasingly erratic as human intelligence analysts monitored every word, every decision, and every movement, predicting reactions with uncanny accuracy. And deep within the asteroid belt, Dr. Mensa and his team activated the energy modulation arrays, revealing cloaked scouting ships and transport convoys for the first time to human command centers, creating a network of total situational awareness that allowed humans to anticipate Varenthian maneuvers before they were executed, and aboard the flagship Dauntless, Captain Alvarez coordinated synchronized maneuvers with other human cruisers, simulating fleet positions that suggested vulnerability while masking the true strength and readiness of Earth's forces, and as the Varenthians debated how to respond to these phantom threats, the humans initiated a calculated sequence of strategic provocations. Subtle but consistent movements of key assets, targeted communications leaks suggesting imminent human aggression, and economic pressures that forced the Council to divert resources, all designed to manipulate Varenthian perceptions and magnify their internal tensions, while cultural emissaries continued to broadcast stories of human resilience, ingenuity, and tactical brilliance, further undermining alien confidence. And in the shadows of these maneuvers, robotic drones and AI-managed systems positioned themselves across critical nodes, ready to neutralize Varenthian technology with precision strikes the moment humans gave the signal, ensuring that any attempt at retaliation will be met not with brute force alone, but with overwhelming coordination. And as Ambassador Ramirez reviewed the operation's progress with her team, she reflected on the elegance of their plan, a convergence of diplomacy, technology, and strategy that would not only punish the Varenthian betrayal, but also teach the galaxy a lesson in the consequences of underestimating humanity. And as the first phase reached its climax, human command centers monitored the chaos spreading through Varenthian communications, noting erratic orders, misdirected fleets, and fractured alliances, all precisely as intended, a testament to the careful orchestration that turned betrayal into opportunity and set the stage for humanity's next decisive moves, a demonstration that intelligence, patience, and foresight could wield more power than any single weapon, and that when humanity chose to act, it did so with a genius that no alien could anticipate or resist, ensuring that the true price of diplomatic treachery would be paid in full. As the Varenthian Council scrambled to contain the chaos within their ranks, humans executed the next phase of their plan with a precision that blurred the line between strategy and art. Fleets once hidden in plain sight repositioned along optimal trajectories, while decoy convoys simulated critical weaknesses, drawing alien forces away from key sectors where Earth's assets had already secured dominance. And aboard the orbital command station over Europa, Admiral Priya Desai monitored every Varenthian response in real time, watching as their leaders misinterpreted phantom movements as real threats, redirecting ships in panic and creating gaps that human reconnaissance teams eagerly logged for future tactical use, while Ambassador Ramirez continued her quiet diplomacy, personally engaging with hesitant alien factions to highlight the growing incompetence of the Council and the risks of continued alignment with its failing strategies, subtly emphasizing that cooperation with Earth offered stability, technological insight, and security that the Varenthians could no longer guarantee. And as messages of doubt and mistrust cascaded to the alien fleets, human engineers on Titan and Ganymede completed the deployment of energy modulation arrays along critical warp lanes, revealing cloaked Varenthian warships in real time to human observers, giving the humans the ability to control the battlefield without firing a single weapon, while automated drones maintain constant observation, ready to engage if necessary, yet primarily serving to heighten perception of omnipresent human awareness, a psychological weapon that eroded enemy morale. And across Earth's colonies, civilians continued their daily routines, unaware that their lives were intertwined with the greatest strategic demonstration in human history, a campaign that combined diplomacy, deception, technological superiority, and psychological insight to create an unstoppable momentum. And as the Varenthian leadership met in emergency sessions, arguing over conflicting intelligence and contradictory reports, Ramirez initiated the final stage of the operation, a series of calculated maneuvers that would corner the Council into public acknowledgement of their missteps, simultaneously broadcasting human technological capabilities, fleet readiness, and precise defensive control to multiple systems across the galaxy, ensuring that the lesson would be both immediate and enduring. And as fleets realigned in Varenthian envoys and desperate messages pleading for clarification or compromise, human diplomats and military commanders worked in perfect concert, exploiting every hesitation, every doubt, and every miscommunication, turning what the aliens assumed was disarray into a masterclass of controlled action. While Dr. Mensa's autonomous systems quietly neutralized surveillance and communication nodes without leaving traceable evidence, reinforcing the impression that humans were everywhere and nowhere, a force of both intellect and presence. And by the time the Varenthian Council realized the depth of their miscalculation, Earth's position was unassailable, every supply line secured, every fleet accounted for, and every diplomatic channel manipulated in a way that forced the aliens to confront the undeniable truth. Their betrayal had awakened a genius that could neither challenge nor outmaneuver, and the consequences of that realization would resonate throughout the galaxy for generations. With the Varenthian Council teetering on the brink of collapse, humans transitioned from subtle manipulation to a controlled revelation of their full strategic capacity, as Ambassador Ramirez coordinated with allied systems to propose a series of emergency treaties that appeared conciliatory but were in reality designed to expose every flaw, every misjudgment, and every vulnerability the Council had unwittingly revealed. While across orbital stations and deep space command centers, General Tanaka and Admiral Desai executed synchronized demonstrations of fleet coordination, energy modulation control, and predictive navigation that left Varenthian commanders scrambling to comprehend the precision and scale of human planning. And aboard the Dauntless, Captain Sofia Alvarez oversaw the deployment of specialized drones capable of intercepting communications, redirecting supplies, and revealing hidden Varenthian formations with split-second timing, all of which fed into a network that gave humans a panoramic understanding of the battlefield and the psychological upper hand, while Ambassador Ramirez, in a public session of the Council, presented evidence of Varenthian duplicity interwoven with subtle proof of human technological superiority, highlighting not just a betrayal but the Council's inability to recognize the magnitude of what they had provoked. And as alien delegates murmured in alarm and disbelief, humans quietly activated secondary contingencies, automated defense grids that could neutralize Varenthian attack vectors without harming civilian populations, economic leverage that disrupted interstellar trade and forced reluctant factions to reconsider allegiances, and cultural broadcasts that reminded alien populations of humanity's history of survival, innovation, and cunning, all meticulously timed to maximize psychological impact. And as panic spread within the Council chambers, the humans' final strategic stroke was executed, a series of tactical maneuvers that simultaneously protected key allies, revealed hidden Varenthian positions, and demonstrated Earth's capacity for coordinated, precise action across multiple theaters, leaving the Council with no options that did not acknowledge human dominance. And in private, Ramirez and a team monitored the cascading effects. Fleets immobilized by confusion, subordinate systems quietly aligning with humans, and the Council's leadership forced to concede that their betrayal had triggered a sequence of events that could not be undone, while civilians across human colonies, oblivious to the intricacy of these operations, continued their routines, their very resilience reinforcing the image of humanity as not only capable of brilliance in battle but able to maintain stability under immense pressure. And as night fell over Earth, the orchestration of patience, foresight, and genius reached its culmination, ensuring that when the Varenthian Council fully grasped the consequences of their actions, they would understand that humanity's response to betrayal was not anger or reckless vengeance, but an overwhelming display of strategic superiority, diplomacy perfected into weaponized intelligence, and technological mastery applied with precision, leaving no doubt that the cost of underestimating humans was a lesson the galaxy would remember forever. As the dust of the Council's miscalculations settled, humanity's full genius became undeniable across the galaxy. Varenthian fleets immobilized by confusion and misdirection, key allies secured by deft diplomacy, and critical systems now under human surveillance. And Ambassador Elena Ramirez stood once more in the Grand Hall, her calm presence a stark contrast to the panic-stricken Varenthian delegates, each of whom now recognized that every assumption they had made about human naivety, weakness, and predictability had been exploited with surgical precision. While in orbit above Mars, General Hiroshi Tanaka and Admiral Priya Desai coordinated the safe withdrawal of human forces from positions no longer strategically necessary, their movements choreographed to demonstrate both restraint and absolute control, and aboard the Dauntless, Captain Sofia Alvarez oversaw the final integration of intelligence networks, ensuring that Earth's awareness extended to every Varenthian outpost and fleet without ever breaching formal treaties, a demonstration of power restrained by foresight and honor. And across the colonies, scientists like Dr. Kofi Mensah deactivated autonomous systems deployed for strategic advantage, the silent hum of energy modulation grids fading into normal operations, all while knowing that the knowledge gained had permanently shifted the balance of the galaxy. And as Ambassador Ramirez addressed the Council, she framed humanity's response not as revenge but as a lesson in consequence, demonstrating that betrayal of a species capable of patience, intelligence, and adaptive brilliance came at an unbearable cost, and as a Varenthian delegates, humbled and chastened, reluctantly accepted terms dictated by strategic logic and undeniable evidence, humans quietly solidified alliances, reinforced offenses, and ensured that the galaxy understood a fundamental truth. Any future underestimation of Earth would be fatal, and that humanity's combination of ingenuity, discipline, and ethical restraint was a power beyond mere weapons, an enduring force that reshaped interstellar politics and guaranteed protection for allies and innocents alike. And while celebration quietly stirred among human colonies, there was no boast, only the steady satisfaction of a species that had turned betrayal into triumph, diplomacy into strategy, and underestimated potential into unassailable dominance. And as the first light of a new galactic cycle touched Earth, the galaxy finally acknowledged that the human race, patient, resilient, and brilliant, would not merely survive threats but outthink, outmaneuver, and decisively shape the future of the stars, leaving Varenthian leaders with a permanent, humbling understanding that the cost of betrayal was not just lost credibility or fractured alliances, but a full reckoning with a genius they could neither match nor contain, and humanity, having exacted both justice and clarity with measured brilliance. Prepared for whatever challenges the galaxy might next present, their reputation forever cemented, their capabilities undisputed, and their patience proven as lethal and profound as any fleet, weapon, or council decree, a testament that when humanity acts, it does so not impulsively but with a depth of strategy, foresight, and moral certainty that ensures the true price of underestimation is paid in full and remembered for all time.